Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Jeff Jones here with Jack again, talking about American, and he still has not figured out how to mute his YouTube channel. Um, so, welcome back, everybody. Today, we're talking about American Nightmare, episode 2 and 3. We're going to wrap that up. Um, uh, I think moving forward, just a little note for you guys. I think kind of figured out maybe it's best to usually to do one documentary per episode because this is the first time we just started it. I thought we were going to do one episode per show. I think it's better if we just even if unless it's an exceedingly long documentary series, we're going to try to wrap them up in one episode. So if it's like a 2 or 3 part episode, we'll just do it all in one. So that's a little bit of a note for you guys moving forward. Appreciate you guys, everybody that was in the um, live chat in the premiere. Appreciate that. Today's so far, or today's plan, I guess I could say, is that we're gonna invite people in from the chat to join us. And I have a summary for episode 3, and we're going to talk about the episode 3, 2, and 3, and then wrap this up today with the help from people who are um, out there in the chat. So again, thank you guys for joining. I'm going to drop that link in just a second, but first I want to welcome Jack. Jack, how you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good. Um, yeah, I want to welcome everyone, of course, into the live chat and this really interesting three-part little docu-series, which I think packs in a lot. Again, I think I said the last time. Um, I don't think that. Well, I think they left a lot out that they could have explored. But then again, we're not the documentarians. These are just questions from me. I'm just one guy. But questions I think that they could have probably explored while they were doing what they were doing and maybe answered. And I'm speaking specifically about the ex-girlfriend, a FBI agent. There are other things too that I would have liked to have seen them answer. Of course, people are free to go look on themselves, I guess, if they're really that interested. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Just I found um, a website that talks a little bit about um, it talks a little bit about the girlfriend, Andrea, and so I just wanted to point that out. And so this was a Business Insider, and it talks about after what has Andrea done afterwards. And there's this portion in this article that I think is interesting, and it says this is the Felicity Morris and Bernadette Higgins. Those are the ones that made the documentary, and they said we obviously knew that she had nothing to do with it. It was just a terrible set of circumstances in regards to Andrea. So the
what?
documentarians don't believe that Andrea had anything to do with it.
Well, I'm okay. I'm not
I'm
going to
just saying,
necessarily.
like, that's their opinion. Yeah, it doesn't have to
Right.
be our opinion. Um,
Exactly. I
but
mean,
I thought
I'm
that
just
was an interesting little tidbit that I
that it
found.
that is interesting. Thank you for finding that. But well, okay. I I guess I see it another way simply because she dated the FBI agent that's involved neck deep in this. And again, we have no idea how this guy, whatever the hell his name is, that did the crime,
Mueller.
knew, yeah, knew anything about who he was going into this house after. Well, you're supposed to be Andrea, but as long as we're here, we're just going to take you. Why would you know anything at all?
I mean, these are the open questions that we have. So, At this point, I'm gonna welcome in Katie Did It and inexplicably Susan to the show. So just want to say welcome to. Well, I guess we'll go with Susan first. How you doing, Susan? Down there.
I'm doing good. Jeff. Thanks. Thanks for
And
having me.
Katie over there. How are you doing, Katie?
I am well. Well, I'm not really well, but I'm doing all right.
It's like
Hello,
that old show, Hollywood Squares. Over there, over here,
I know.
down there.
Hello, ladies. Hello.
Hello,
So,
Jack.
We were just talking about Andrea and her role or non-role in this. Do you ladies have any comments about Andrea, or even what I just found in that the documentarians seemed like she's not involved? They're pretty convinced she has nothing to do with it. What do you guys feel about it?
What's that based on? I wonder. Did that article say what they're basing that on?
That's just their opinion, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of like the documentary, right? I mean, it seems like there are a lot of details that aren't in the documentary that would be helpful to know.
I mean, maybe that makes
Absolutely.
sense that if the documentarians didn't think she had anything to do with it, it makes us kind of understand why they didn't dig into it. Whereas us, I think, I don't want to speak for all of you, but I feel like we're all on the same page here, where it's like, no, we need to know more about Andrea. We need to know what was this about.
Absolutely.
If the guy hadn't known details, I couldn't say that. But he did. Both Aaron and what's the girl's name? Denise. Both told the cops, this guy, what he had said about, well, you're supposed to be Andrea. Where's she at? But while I'm here, you can come with me. What?
And then I'll rape you anyway, even though
twice.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll also let you pack a bag.
No hard feelings, I'm sorry, Katie, what?
Yeah, I'll also let you pack a bag. So pack up your duffel bag in your backpack, and then I'm going to drag you by your feet, and then I'm going to walk you into my house, guide you into my house. And I guess he goes back and gets her backpack and her duffel bag later and brings it in. I mean, everything's so weird. Like sequencing is a big thing for me. Things need to make sense when you're explaining a story.
Yeah. And you know what? I think part of it, for me anyway, is sometimes things don't make sense on purpose. Like you do things because we think everything's logical, right? We're like, well, why would they do that? That wouldn't make sense, right? And I've noticed that, like in some cases where things just happen and it doesn't make sense and there's no explanation for it, and that's what makes us go, why would you do that? That wouldn't happen, right? And yet we see these instances of, the duffel bag. Like when I first saw her come to her dad's house with the duffel bag, I was like, she's in on it. Like I was convinced at that point in the end of episode 1. But
I thought
since then I've kind of changed my.
Well, there's another question, and I'll shut about Andrea at least for now. I promise.
No, go ahead.
This guy gets in. Why would Andrea be the target anyway? Where did that come from? That's a whole other side of it. Why would she be a target? His target.
I mean, this is what should have been looked into, right? This is what should have been, instead of the FBI agent just being like, no, you're lying to us, Denise, you're lying. Wouldn't at some point you'd be like, well, if this was meant for Andrea, maybe we should talk to Andrea a little bit more and ask her and dig into her. Like, has anyone been stalking you? Has anyone been, did you have any other bad relationships? Have you had any strange calls? Has anyone tried to break into your house before? Anything? And
you had a run in a bar with someone that you told to go F off because you had nothing to do with them and made them mad.
And we just get kind of
Had he
nothing.
window peeped her before? Wasn't he in that neighborhood doing all kinds of stuff?
I don't
right in
know
that
about
area
I
prior.
don't know.
What did they connect him to that window peeping? He was a suspect in it, but I don't think that they ever
They didn't convict him of
followed
it.
through on it because they had already got him on 40 years for this. So it's, I guess,
Yeah, I don't think he was charged. I think they said that at the end. He wasn't
That's-
charged.
Was the FBI guy former military?
this was a question that I bring up actually in our.
Oh, okay.
episode
We'll
3.
do
No,
it
no,
then.
no. So yeah, why don't we? So as I mentioned earlier, I think from here on out we're gonna be like one and done, like one episode per documentary, or maybe two, depending if it's really long. But I have the third episode that Jack and I recorded ready to go. So maybe we'll play a little portion of that and then stop and talk about it as we get to different aspects of it. So I will start that now. We'll play a couple minutes. If you guys want to stop, or if you have anything, or I'll stop it, just to give us some backbone about what to talk about. So anything else about the opening? Anybody have any other opening comments before we start this?
Well, I think that we're going to see some significant moves here in episode 3, which is a really good thing. And that this lady officer that gets involved, she's a champ. She really is.
She has a hard name, Karasura. I forget how to say it. She's got a difficult. It couldn't be just Caruso or something easy. It had to be difficult. Anyway, we'll watch a couple minutes of this and then we'll talk about it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is Jeff Jones, and with me today again is Jack, and we are here to talk about episode 3 of American Nightmare. So welcome back, Jack.
Thanks, Jeff, and welcome to everyone in the live chat. Glad you could join us for this little journey into a really great documentary and this really horrific story. Really horrific.
It's almost like an American Nightmare.
It really is.
The scenario is something that you would have in a nightmare, that someone broke into your house and tied you up and then stole your girlfriend or wife, right? Like that is actually
Drugged you, got you, made you sleepy or drowsy. So you kind of stay calm and not all ramped up and screaming and yelling. And then put a camera in there to watch you, to say you can't call the cops, or if you do, we're gonna harm her.
Jesus. I don't know. Like if I was in that situation, I'd have a hard time. I don't know. I've seen a lot of crime documentaries. I've seen a lot of forensic files, and I've seen a lot of like, don't call the cops or we're going to kill. Well, a lot of times sorry to say this, but they end up killing the person anyway. So like
That's right.
every minute is a valuable minute. So I don't know if I would wait long to call the cops. Like I would be on it. I'd just be like,
I
nope.
probably would. I'm sorry. I probably would. I would call.
I wouldn't wait. At the end of episode 2, the kidnappers warn the police. They say, either you need to tell the truth that Denise and Aaron were actually telling the truth, or we're going to do this again. We're going to kidnap again. And episode 2 ends up with a report of another kidnapping that seems to be the same scenario. What did you guys think about that twist?
Was that more than one person involved in that?
That's a good question. And did they say we when they brought that up, that we are going to?
I think so.
I think they did. I think they said we are going to do this again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they kept saying we. Now that doesn't necessarily, mean that there's a we. I could say, we went to the movies last night when I was alone. just to throw you off my trail for some reason, but to make it sound like there's more people. But why would you divulge that information? See, there's another one that it wouldn't be logical, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? But I've never heard of anything like that the kidnappers are telling law enforcement they need to apologize to the victims or this is going to be done again.
Well, they're not getting credit either.
Fair enough. It's so strange. I never heard anything like that.
Well, it's like he was really upset because, as Susan said, he or they weren't getting credit for what they had done. So we're gonna do
I
it
never
again.
thought about it like that.
The only time that more than one person is obvious, well, I guess it's not obvious, but they talked about, or we talked about maybe last week, about someone dropping him off if he was the only one at the house, because
Right.
he did end up taking, I forgot the guy's name, his
Aaron.
car,
Yeah.
Aaron's car.
That's
You know,
another hole. That how did he get to the house originally if he left in Aaron's car?
And then we have the person or people arriving out at the cabin for a heated discussion. I mean, did they not know she was in there?
They may not have been aware that was happening. It could have just been
That's true.
anybody.
Sure.
So, poll the audience, poll you guys in chat, poll you guys here. Who thinks that this was done alone solely by Mueller? Does anybody think that?
I do not.
I don't think so either. I think there was other players.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know.
and I think ultimately it's because I believe Denise when she says that. I don't think she has any reason to lie about that. That someone else came to the cabin that day. That she was at the cabin kidnapped, and she has no reason to lie about that, right?
What
But
did they ask for?
they didn't see her, right? They didn't
know.
see her. So
Denise
maybe
didn't.
they didn't know she was there.
That's a really good point. That just because a car pulls up and you hear someone talking doesn't know that the suspect has someone kidnapped in their house. That's
Right.
a really good point that I hadn't thought of before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Susan,
I mean,
that
what
good.
was the ransom demand was like 15,000 or something,
15.
Yeah.
and they're gonna split that between how many people? I mean,
3, at least. I guess a couple more. I guess I don't. That's a good question too. I don't know.
And the claim was that they were that this was their business, that this was their business plan or their model, their crime model was to do this to multiple people to get money. I don't know. Maybe I'm just convinced. Maybe you just convinced me that maybe Mueller did act alone, and it was. I'm not convinced yet, but that's a pretty good thinking right there. That when just because she heard footsteps or she heard someone else doesn't necessarily mean that they knew he had someone kidnapped. Interesting take on that.
That's right.
I'm glad that we stopped.
could have been
and
his
maybe-
dad. Could have been anybody.
It
And
could be
maybe
anybody.
telling her that, we decided that this first recording wasn't good enough. Maybe that's just more of
More
trying
bullshit.
to, yeah. I mean, it could be.
I guess
Maybe he
what
has a
is-
split personality, and he's
Maybe he
too many
does.
people.
Like, what would be the advantage to that? Like, even in a legal or to just to have smoke and mirrors, just to make it seem like it's a bigger deal?
Yeah, I think so.
I
Just
don't know.
to
Maybe he's just super
confuse.
narcissistic and can't really tell the truth.
That could be too.
Yeah.
But either way, they never really pushed hard that we can tell to get to the bottom of it. Like it was just kind of like the cops just said, nope, it was all him. He was all alone. I mean, I wasn't there for his interrogation. That would be interesting to see how much they asked him. How can we trust that you did it alone, etc. But you know, that's where the documentary leaves us. All right, we'll watch a little bit more. Let me know if you want to stop it or if something comes to your mind. So that's where this one picks up. So it's June 5th of 2015. It's a couple months after, maybe like 10 weeks after Denise's release from being held captive. There's another break-in in Dublin, California. The husband is fighting with people who have invaded the home, and there's an attempted kidnapping of a 22-year-old daughter. Did I just say people?
You did.
Fighting with people?
You did.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to double check that as we listen, or if you guys can double check, or maybe we'll have to go back to the episode and see, because that, if they're claiming people, okay, maybe I just misspoke. Which is a similar situation to Aaron and Denise. There was a laser pointing at them as they broke in. So we hear this frantic 911 call. When the law enforcement shows up, the husband is covered in blood. The suspect runs out the back door and hops over the fence. And the offender, the kidnapper, forgot his phone at the house. It's almost like,
oh my God.
And the lieutenant, he rings the mother of the phone. Like, he just goes through the phone and says, "Who? Okay, oh, there it says mom. Okay, let's call mom and find out whose phone this is." It's like, what? It's that simple. See, when you're doing your job right, it can be that simple. So it calls the mom, and they identify the attacker is revealed as Matthew Muller. He's an ex-U.S. Marine and a Harvard Law graduate.
Yep, Harvard. He's a lawyer, or was.
And he has been accused of attempted rape in the past.
Now we're really getting some teeth behind their story, some real proof. They didn't make shit up. That's not a fraud.
Right.
This shit really happened. As crazy as it sounds, it really took place.
I mean, what do you guys think about this criminal mastermind? And he leaves his phone at the crime scene. Why would you bring your phone to the crime scene?
That's a really good question right there.
Yeah. And
I wonder if he was using his
say,
phone to set up that camera or something.
I
don't
thought
know.
that. I was just thinking that.
maybe
You need that.
did
to set
say
up the
this.
camera.
The suspect fled over the fence, and that's one person, the suspect.
Yeah, the suspect.
So-
So I think I just misspoke when I said struggling with more than one person, because that would have been a major thing in that case, that they couldn't have just wiped it away.
Yeah.
I think that I just misspoke there. But so if this one is just one guy, that kind of, I mean, maybe that makes sense, that it would lead you to believe that it was just one guy this whole time. To be fair, you know, if go ahead, Jack.
No, I was just saying, yeah, you're right. Potentially, that's right.
I mean, to be fair, Denise was drugged at the time, was not in her right mind at the time. It's possible that she didn't understand what was going on. Her she's just assuming anybody related to Muller is involved. If the neighbor stops over, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Blah blah blah. They're talking outside, and then he leaves. Then he comes back in and makes up a story. Oh, they said that we have to do this just to play along, just to give smoke and mirrors. I guess that's possible. But leaving the phone, and just the manner of how they call. Let's just go into the. I mean, how simple. Just call mom's phone and say, "Hey, I found this phone. Do you know whose it is?"
Yeah.
We called mom. You know what I mean? It's that simple for
Yeah.
law enforcement.
Yep.
So, word to the wise of criminals: leave your phone at home, or take a burner phone. I mean,
Something that they can't relate to you at all.
yeah, it just seems. And when I saw some online theory that if this was some setup by the FBI, or this was Cessna setting them, Cessna setting them up, that they left the phone on purpose. That was all part of it, but I don't think so. I think I think he was just dumb. I think he just made a mistake, or like I think Katie said, he needed it to set up the camera and just was in a hurry, and that's a big dum-dum though. That was a big dum-dum move, I guess.
He pulled a Koberger.
Yeah, there you go. Left important evidence at the scene.
Here, let me leave my knife sheath with my fingerprint on it. That can never hurt.
I do want to say welcome to Travis and Jazz Naz Gaming for joining us. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll watch a little bit more of this preview here. So the mother of this Matthew Muller tells the police that he's staying in a cabin near South Lake Tahoe. So the police head out to the cabin, and they force the door open, and they arrest this guy right away.
Yeah.
Photos are taken of him. The cabin is a mess. The police find evidence linking him to the Dublin kidnapping, the one that he was just fleeing from. They locate this white Mustang car that Denise had reported to had been inside. Now, I don't know if they connected that at that point, but in her story, Denise said, "I think I was in a white Mustang."
She did say that in the very beginning.
They find a blow-up doll that is made to look like a human being. They also find a pair of goggles with blonde hair attached to it, but nobody knows who this blonde hair could be, right? So you're like, what? Like, we know as viewer, we know that this is Denise's hair.
Yes.
But the cops at that point, they don't. I mean, it's not an eye in the sky type thing.
This is two different departments. You guys got to remember that. Two different police departments that work here.
That's right. They're not an eye in the sky. They don't know everything. They don't connect the dots. So we can't really blame them at this point for poor police work, because they're just like following what they got. Okay. And then in another discovery, and I think we talked about this earlier about the FBI agent.
This is the big deal right here to me.
Sesma.
Go ahead and tell. Yeah.
So Sesma is the FBI agent.
He's the ex. He used to date Aaron's ex, Andrea.
The
That's
FBI agent.
And yes,
was dating the ex, Andrea, who the original kidnapper said was the target of all this.
Yes.
I just need to say it again, so it's clear in my head, so it's clear in your head. The FBI agent used to date Andrea, who was the original target of this kidnapping.
So let's take that back. And when this was revealed, my mind directly went to this is who this was, this FBI agent, and I don't know if it was Andrea or someone else that came to the cabin. That's what I think. I think this was a setup. Now, this is not part of.
That's never been confirmed or any.
No.
But that's your suspicion that this guy did in fact have something to do with it. Well, Jack, you can either elaborate, or Katie and Susan are welcome to elaborate on that as well. Are you still under that same feeling after letting it sink in a little bit, Jack?
I am. And I say that, we don't have any proof. And I say that without having more information, because I don't know that for positive that, this guy was involved. But I'm just not a huge believer in coincidences of this nature. Again, if this guy, when he broke into their apartment, if he hadn't said what he did, I couldn't say this at all. There would be some connection, but it wouldn't certainly wouldn't be as strong as he says. Oh well, you're supposed to be Andrea. Where's she at? Well, okay, and then we find out that this FBI agent that's now involved directly used to date her. I can't wrap my head around that without going to a place that I can't prove, but I
did
certainly
not.
suspect. Right.
Hard to
It's
believe
crazy.
that's just a coincidence, you know.
It is for me.
It's- I think the fact that he had a blow up doll shows that he's trying to make people believe it's if he's spotted or whatever, that it's more than one person.
Possible. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it would make sense. I don't know. Again, I don't understand what advantage does that give you, and I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just smoke and mirrors, just making it more complicated. That you could say, if you get caught, you could say, well, the real mastermind. I wasn't the real mastermind. It was, or are you just doing that so you can go through the speedway, through the highway, so you don't have to go through whatever the carpool lane?
That's
But
possible.
he didn't do that, did he?
Say
He
again?
didn't implicate anyone else when he got arrested, did he?
No.
Not that I know of. No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, and it's you got to wrap your head around. Remember, everyone that's not thinking about it. This guy is a Harvard law graduate, so he's not a dumbass in many ways. He's very intelligent.
Right.
But he
You
did
know, his
some
letters-
really dumb shit.
You can
His
still
letters
have
to
no
the
common
press.
sense.
His letters to the press implicated others.
So
Yes.
I have an article here that's going to clear up a couple things for us.
Okay.
And first off, this is the defense attorney, Doug Rappaport, and he says there's absolutely no way SESMA should be on this case. It's clear, unequivocal, black and white conflict of interest. So I write to the Office of the Inspector General and I explain the situation. And their response, the appropriate authorities found this conduct unproblematic.
Unreal. That's just
Wow.
jaw dropping.
Well, that says a lot about the appropriate people.
Sure does.
The appropriate authorities. The
Yep.
Inspector General said this.
Never heard of such.
Yeah,
The next paragraph is interesting too.
I was just going to say, then the next paragraph is what I also wanted to share with you guys. Another unexplained detail is that Huskins and Quinn were convinced that there were more than one perpetrator, having seen the feet of numerous men when their home was invaded. So their claims, Aaron and Denise are saying they couldn't see, full bodies, but they definitely knew that there was multiple feet. And so I think that kind of, for me, that firms that detail up, that we were kind of wishy-washy, but we weren't really sure, but that is an important point, that they're convinced. And then that lines up with what Denise said when she was kidnapped, that there was someone else there and that it feels like they were involved.
But they didn't talk. They apparently didn't say anything. They just kept silent.
Interesting. Well, it probably wasn't the blow up doll.
No. I would hope not.
Where's this article from, Jeff?
This one is, I'll post it in the chat. This is Dexert.
Awesome.
Just some off-brand name. I mean, I guess you can, I'll link it here, send it here into the chat.
Yeah, if there's anyone interested, there's also, at least, actually, there's several things on Reddit. I did a search earlier, and people are talking about this FBI agent, SESMA. One of the newest comments, Sussman is probably involved, and Mueller took the fall. One day, his day will come, and the truth will come out. Well, maybe. I don't know. This guy, um, Mueller, he hasn't talked for whatever reason. He hasn't ratted out anyone, to try to help himself. I don't know.
As of May 6th, this is May 14th today. Here's something about David Sesma potentially ill, as a serious illness. So, not that matters, or that has any effect on the case, but there you go. Apparently, if he is guilty of something, guilt has a way of manifesting itself into a physical condition, and I do firmly believe that.
Karma? Are you saying karma?
Well,
Karma.
I think it's stronger than karma. I think that when people have guilt, or they've done something wrong, or they're carrying baggage, like, it can manifest to physical negative physical things. So I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that's what the truth is, but
sure.
And then finally, one more thing about Cessna, and I posted this earlier, is that there is a petition on change.org to have him removed as an FBI agent. And so I can share that as well if you guys want to sign that. Not sure that it's going to change anything, but there you go.
Yeah, these petitions don't matter.
Dave, I think you need to get like tens or hundreds of millions for people to even notice or care.
It has to be a massive push.
Yeah,
to get the attention of those in charge.
Because that's all you're going to do is get the attention of someone, right? It's not like, oh, change.org hit their goal. Now Sesma's out. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes I wish it did, but I'm probably glad it doesn't work that way. Anyway, we'll watch a little bit more.
Yes. So this could explain how this guy, this kidnapper, Mueller, how he knew the details about these people's lives. It was supposed to be Andrea. Who are you? But to me, once that comes out, he should have recused himself off of the case immediately. Should not have been involved at all.
For the people out there in the internet world, let me know what you think in the comments or in the chat. Should this guy have been anywhere near this case? This officer, Sesma, was he a former Marine?
That I don't know if it's revealed or not. I don't think
not
that's
revealed, but that's the question that I would say. Like, who had that question earlier? Was that you, Katie? Was he also a Marine? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
So we were both thinking the same thing. I was trying to think of some connection between Mueller and Sesma. Was that what you were thinking?
Yeah, and well, I mean, she said, "Don't say that. You can't say that I'm military." So I just wondered if it was, if there were others involved. Maybe it was military buddies. Of course.
Right. Which is funny because I will give you a little preview for next week, guys. We are going to talk about the confessions and the Norfolk 4, and those are military buddies, or some of them were military buddies, or they were military involved, although that's a quite different story. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, I will link it. The confessions, we'll talk. I'll mention it again at the end of this episode, but it just kind of triggered something in my mind thinking about military. So yeah, I mean it's wild to consider that, but at the same time it's kind of logical. FBI agents, a lot of them come from military backgrounds, so I think it's
could it also be was it Harvard he went to? Where did he go to school?
Yes,
Harvard, and he taught at Stanford, so he was an Ivy Leaguer.
Like I said
So it
earlier,
could be a
this guy's
connection there as well.
he's no dumbass. There's one more element that always seems to be forgotten as well. How did they get in to the residence without breaking a door down or smashing a window? And apparently they did. They didn't find any way for them to get in. You know,
That's
short
right.
of, and I can't remember if it's actually discussed, but about leaving the door unlocked, which I really doubt that Aaron would do that. He seemed like a pretty responsible person, and most people lock their doors at night. Hell, they lock them all the time.
But interestingly enough, when they talked about that second house that was broke into in Berlin, it sounded like there was a break-in.
Yes.
So that's a little bit different.
So maybe it was unlocked. It's possible.
Maybe it was.
I'd like to know if his target was Andrea, and so he gets a woman that he knows nothing about, right? How does he know where her father lives?
Yeah, how does he know all this about Andrea? Or how does he? If he was targeting Andrea, it would make sense that he would know where Andrea's father was. But how does he know
Possibly.
where Denise's father is?
400 miles away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
400 miles away. And the thing is I'm not. Huskins is not that unique of a name. What if he drops her off at the wrong Daddy Huskins house, right? There's multiple people of that name. How does he know that that's the right house if he's just on the internet searching for people with that name? He had to have known. He had to have been doing his research. So yeah, so many questions. It's just a cobweb, isn't it? It's just a cobweb.
It is.
Maybe he had an FBI friend who could help him find that information.
That's possible. Well,
I could be a prosecutor now. See, I just make shit up.
You just make it. Well, at least you're making it up has some semblance of logic. All right.
Does he have a connection to Matt Mueller?
We find out about this other law enforcement officer, Sergeant Misty Caruso.
yes.
So she's she's an officer on the Mueller case. So she's looking for the hair found at Mueller's cabin in the woods. And she's having no luck locating like who this blonde hair belongs to. But she finds out about this 2009 case of a 32-year-old woman called Tracy. Tracy, who lives in Mountain View and was the victim of a home invasion. She begged not to be raped, and the offender said he was sorry and advised the terrified woman to get a dog and do certain things to avoid being a target.
Yeah. Who does that? Who does that?
Yeah, who does it? They're like, okay, so I raped you, and then I'm like, you should have had a dog.
And well, I was gonna say we got basically the hero of the case keeps
The
investigating.
hero of the case is a woman.
Yeah.
And and this is a big takeaway for me about it, that it took a woman to bring this case to a head. That it took a woman believing another woman, because no man would believe this other woman, and that was a big takeaway for me.
Yeah.
Did you all ladies feel that same way?
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even in this supposedly world where we're supposed to believe women, and that's a part that I don't think I touch on it in the review here today, but Denise makes a point of that in episode 3, that she had been burglarized one time before. She was assaulted when she was young, and no one would believe her. And at some point, she just says in the documentary, like, what's it going to take for someone to believe my story? No one will believe me. and it took another woman who was willing to put in the work and do it.
You know that this woman they were just talking about that had nothing to do with kidnapping and ransom and all of that.
She was just trying to connect the hair of the goggles, right? And
That's
then she had these
Yeah, but
other
I'm
cases that were similar.
I'm just saying the crime he committed
Oh, right. Oh, yeah,
was
yeah.
different.
Yeah, I don't think he didn't get to the point where he could have kidnapped someone because the man of the house, I guess, for lack of a better term, he was struggling with Mueller, right? And so
Well, I was
they
talking about the other woman that he raped, the one he told to get a dog, and
oh, right. Good point.
I don't know if you felt that way. Probably, I guess
did.
so. Yeah.
I did.
So this Misty Sergeant Caruso, we'll just say that.
Yeah, that sounds right, Caruso. That sounds right.
So she's investigating this blonde hair. That at this point in the documentary, we're all pretty sure that it's Denise's, but she doesn't know that. So she discovered the case, the Mare Island creeper who operated in a quiet neighborhood, harassed a bunch of students, and often would peep into their windows and take pictures of them, which kind of sounds like that Kohlberger guy, right? Kohlberger,
Yeah, I mean, I guess this guy was hanging around, creeping, waiting till these girls took their pants off, taking pictures of them in their underwear and so forth and so on. I think they explained in the documentary.
So Mueller is one of the suspects of that Mare Island creeper.
Yes.
After these cases have stopped, it coincides with the so-called Gone Girl case involving Aaron and Denise. And this officer Caruso makes the connection between the cases and discovers the GPS found in Mueller's Mustang had Huntington Beach saved on previous locations. So,
I mean, again, that's a big blunder if you're trying to get away with a crime. He used his GPS to plug in Denise's father's address into the GPS and then didn't delete that, or they were able to locate that and found the connection there. It's not as dumb as leaving your phone at the crime scene, but
she goes, oh, Huntington Beach was in a previous location on this GPS, and she connects it. The blonde hair is Denise's, and Officer Caruso is determined to chase it up and calls the Vallejo PD, but gets no answer from the Vallejo PD.
She calls and calls and calls. She made numerous calls and no one's answering. And then finally, go ahead.
Yeah, and so she's calling, and eventually she gets transferred and told to call the FBI. The Vallejo PD is no longer investigating it, and the feds have taken over the case. Well, remember that. Who are the feds in this scenario? The former boyfriend of Andrea, who was
right. I mean,
you get no answer at a police station over and over.
No one's returning your call. Hey, I have information about a crime that you might have more information about. Can you give me a call back?
It's just weird.
Why they wouldn't answer the damn phone? I don't understand that.
Yeah, because it's solved. Because the case is already solved. You know, like.
But they don't. Do they know who's calling? They don't even know who's calling, right? They don't answer the phone.
Well, were they not answering, or were they not returning her call? I'm not sure which one that is.
She said answering.
Yeah, she said that they wouldn't answer.
They wouldn't even pick up the phone.
She got no answer many times. Like, what?
Oh, Lord.
who was originally the target of this
Correct.
so-called. Yeah. So she is given the number of none other than
FBI agent.
Sesma.
Yep.
David Sesma, and tells him that they have a suspect in custody similar to Denise's. He tells her to send the information and they'll have a look. So we also get some more details about what happened in the law enforcement. And they said that there was no evidence of non-consensual sex when Denise was kidnapped. And I think that they revealed that there was, that one of the, tests that she had taken had shown trauma.
Yes.
And they put Aaron's phone in airplane mode when he was taken into custody. Airplane mode. They put his phone, he can't receive text or phone calls when supposedly a kidnapper is trying to contact Aaron. What'd you guys think of that?
Yeah, I don't get that. I mean, they're just that makes no sense. I mean, they've already solved their case, I guess.
Right.
That's what it is
Now
to
they
me. They don't
are
believe
trying to
a word.
get a confession.
They don't believe a word he said. We don't need to hear anything. Airplane mode. Thank you. Why would a police department do that when this guy's, at minimum, leave the phone on and see if somebody does call, and if they do, or if they don't, that you've lost nothing. If they do, hey, you may have another little lead here, another little tip, right?
I mean, that's a logic that I would follow, Jack. I'm with you there.
Yeah, they lose nothing by leaving the phone on.
Right. I mean, if this is what I said, I think, earlier about if there's a 1% chance they're telling the truth, then the kidnappers are trying to contact Aaron. Well, we need to monitor his email. We need to monitor his phone. We need to monitor, his social media. Right?
Yeah, they may cause the victim to be killed. They can't get in touch with him.
Especially when most kidnappings don't end in positive outcomes. How many times they just don't. And it's, and we'll get to it in a little bit here coming up about the lack of consequences for the law enforcement, but nothing happens to them. They have blunder after blunder, and there's no accountability.
Does. They're rewarded.
Yeah, that's right. They're rewarded.
Well, again, this goes back to, I think, kind of the basis of the whole thing here is the mindset of any police department that locks in, and they're done. They're done listening to anyone else. They've got their guy. They've got their girl. They conspired to do this to do whatever their motive could have been.
What would the motive be? What in law enforcement's mind, what's the motive for this hoax?
Right. What do they do? It's defrauding, but what are they gaining out of it except
what are they gaining?
Getting vilified by the public?
Well, do we know the sequence of when the FBI agent dated her? Because we do know that Aaron was missing her and texting her, and as his girlfriend said, cheating on him emotionally.
So I just pulled up something in to get the timeline a little right. So here it says, and this is from Reddit, so take it for what it's worth, and then a review. In 2010, while married to another man, Andrea had an affair with Sesma. I didn't know she was married to another man. Later that year, she separated from that man and continued to see Sesma until she began dating Aaron at the end of 2010. So it was right before. It was right before.
Oh no.
And she was married. So you got she got an ex-husband, then Sesma, then Aaron.
So she dumps. Well, if she does dump Sesma for Aaron, We
Well,
don't know that, I guess.
no, we don't. But
But if she does, then Susma would have a reason to want to damage Aaron.
potentially.
And maybe
Yeah.
he could get his sick little buddies in the detective unit to help him out, because we know that shit happens all the time.
Or he certainly would know an element of people out there in the world, being an FBI agent, that, he's got,
A CI.
how they, that's what I'm saying, that's what they do. They don't arrest, a lot of times they won't arrest someone, they'll force them to become a CI and do dirty deeds, dirty deeds done dirt cheap kind of thing.
So many questions in this one. This one might haunt me. It's a nightmare. It might haunt us all for a little while.
I wish the documentary people would have either told us why they eliminated Andrea or dug into that a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. I think they could have done one more and dug into it.
Well, I mean, they need to follow that timeline all the way through of, how did that relationship end? Did it end because Aaron was texting her and coming into her office all the time? I mean, the documentary says that she cheated on Aaron, which is why they broke up. Well, that's according to Aaron, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. We don't have all the answers for this, which is typical.
We just don't. There's a lot left, left on the table in this one. All right. Oh,
Unbelievable.
and so then it's revealed that the kidnapper did call, and the calls would have been traceable to 200 meters from where Denise was being held. Had they done all this work that they said they had done, had they gone through, all these massive resources are being spent, but we're so busy that we didn't turn the phone off airplane mode and see if the kidnappers called the boyfriend. Because, in my opinion, they didn't want to see any other information. They had their guy. They wanted to go home and watch Netflix.
Yep.
They didn't want to deal with it. We got the guy. Turn his phone off. No one's calling.
Yeah, you're lying. Or just turn your phone off and stick it in the locker.
So, that's a good point. Wouldn't that be enough to say you were negligent in your work? You could have found this kidnapping victim that day if you would have traced the phone, and you were negligent. And wouldn't that be something? To me,
To sue.
I think my answer, but yeah, to sue them, right? And we'll get to that in a little bit because there was a court case.
Yeah, that's what I was going to chime in on. I'll wait till it comes around.
Oh yeah, coming up soon. All right, here we go. The FBI is not sure if Mueller acted alone, despite the claims that there are others involved. They're not sure. The FBI is not sure, Jack. But isn't it pretty obvious that he didn't act alone?
Well, I mean, I think that, well, to me, it's pretty obvious that he didn't. How could he know these details? That's what it all comes back to. How could he know the details of Aaron Denise's life and about this is supposed to be Andrea? Who are you? How could he know that unless he had acted in concert with someone, even if they didn't participate in the actual kidnapping? It doesn't matter. Someone else helping him with these details? I'm sorry. And there's no signs of a break-in. You remember what I said earlier? There's no signs of a break-in. So how did he get inside that apartment? He had to have a key from someone that lived with Aaron.
Previously lived with
Aaron. Right.
Andrea.
Yeah, that likely still had a key.
So at the end of episode 3, we see that Mueller has pleaded guilty and is sentenced to 40 years in prison for kidnapping, robbery, and rape. And Denise and Aaron are actually allowed to face him in court. So that is, that's some justice for them. He was never charged with the rapes in Palo Alto or Mountain View or the Peeping Tom incidences. So feels like there was maybe more that could be done with Mueller, especially if he's this violent criminal. 40 years is a long time, but if
we got to remember this guy is not unintelligent. I mean, he's a Harvard law graduate, and
That's right.
you don't graduate from there being a dummy. You got to have some intelligence about you.
So in 2016, Aaron and Denise did sue the Vallejo Police Department for defamation. So it wasn't because they did something wrong in the case. It's because when they went on camera and said, Denise is lying, Aaron is lying, that was a defamation of character. So I think it's important that they never admitted wrongdoing, and the only reason that they settled out of court for $2.5 million is because they got him on a defamation allegation, not because they did something wrong in the actual investigation. There you go. I don't know if you guys had anything to add to that, but going back to what we said earlier about they didn't turn on the phone. They could have found her earlier, and then they're not found of any wrongdoing. And the only way they got money is out of defamation.
No repercussions, no consequences. I can't think of any other job that's unless you're a politician, that you're going to get away with some really unacceptable behavior. Not one. Any other job that probably any of us have held, you're fired and you probably are going to go to jail. Sorry.
Did that settle without a civil trial?
It did. They took depositions, but they never went to trial. They settled out of court.
Wouldn't you like to read those depositions?
Yeah, I would. There's a little brief spot coming up here in just a second when they talk about the chief of police. So maybe we'll come right back to that.
Hey, there's a little blurb here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
There's a little blurb on, once again, Reddit, so take it for what it is, 3 months ago. Did some internet sleuthing and have figured out that David Sesma graduated from college and is ex-military.
There you go.
There you go.
We need more information still.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like other people out there are thinking the same thing that we are.
Yeah.
So I think we're all kind of on the right track there with other people that are out there.
There's another comment on this Reddit thread that I'm reading. It says, I just got done reading the arrest documents, which included the emails he sent to that reporter. In the emails, he talked about how he or they thought, I don't believe his claims that he and had an accomplice, had broken into various homes in the area, what he did or did not steal and why, what he learned about people and what he thought about people. Anyway, this goes on and on down into this comment this person made. Mueller apparently says he had broken into Aaron's home multiple times. Again, how is he getting in there? I just don't understand, man. But this guy, apparently, I haven't read this whole comment. It's fairly long. I'll post a link, and y'all can take it for what it is. But anyway, just wanted to throw that in. But I'll throw the link in the
throw the link. Absolutely, we'll share that. Okay, we'll get to the next point.
Oh, it is, and there's no way they wanted this in a trial. Not Vallejo, the police.
Creative lawyering, I would put that up to. That's creative lawyering to get something out of the police department.
Yep.
So the chief, Andrew Bideau, he was deposed in a civil case. And okay, an anonymous source says that before the press conference, Bideau, the chief of police, told Lieutenant Park to burn that bitch, referring to Denise and accusing her of causing a hoax. So you have the guy Park, who was the one doing it, but it stems all the way back up to the chief of police, who immediately just thought, oh, she was the problem and we need to burn her. No officers were disciplined in this case. And, just a reminder, the reason they got money was not because of wrongdoing in the investigation. It was because of the defamation that they said on national TV about them committing a hoax. And that was defamation of character. Aaron and Denise, after all this legal stuff is done, they do get to meet with Sergeant Misty Karausu, the one who basically was the only one who would really put the pieces together. Without her, none of this is possible. Like
she's a bulldog. She wouldn't let it go. When she
let it go.
No, I mean she wouldn't know who this blonde hair found out to. She didn't know anything about this Aaron and Denise's case. I mean, there's a lot of details that this is really more of a summary, but there's a lot of really good police work that happened from just good, honest cops that are trying to solve a case and find out about what all this guy's done. And to me, that's what it's about. They investigate, having a good cops that don't get sucked down into this tunnel vision of saying, oh, you're just a damn liar. I don't believe any of it. You guys have set this up for whatever reason. Yeah, it really is I think a real eye-opening case about what happened, what the police did.
So before we get too far away from it, I was wondering if you guys, what do you feel about an anonymous person saying that about the chief of police said, let's burn this bitch?
That right there is holy shit, I mean, to me.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go for it.
Well, I mean, we know that happens. In the Holtzclaw case, the detective was told the eyes of the department are on you. So those sort of things, when you tell subordinate people, you're instructing them to affect an outcome.
And that's not how it's supposed to go.
No, it's unlike Misty, who's willing to follow the facts in search of the truth.
Thank you.
You don't find that all the time.
Yeah, round of applause for Misty, huh?
She followed the evidence, which is what's supposed to happen. You don't create a situation and try to force a case. To me.
I mean, how many resources did this police department use up? They didn't really do.
They did do some searching. They searched around. It tells, I think, they're in episode 1, maybe some in episode 2. They did do some searching of different areas. I think they looked at a nearby pond. I don't know how much resources they call into that, but I think they did use some. I mean, it wasn't like a massive amount, but they did use some. But not like he tried to describe, like, she's just sucked the life out of the community, or they have, looking for her. And you're just lying, It was a huge problem for him at that point.
Well, and at the end of the day, the law enforcement was responsible for costing the taxpayers more money.
Yeah.
Oh, far more money.
You see what I'm saying? Like, they're so worried about these precious resources, but they're the ones at the end of the day that cost the taxpayer more than anything.
Yeah, a couple $1 million. Plus, I'm sure all the legal fees out of that too. Incorrectly did. And tunnel vision can't be overstated enough. It needs to be underscored and dotted and starred and blown up in gigantic, bold font, tunnel vision. And these people were not believed, and it was handled so badly, as we said in the beginning.
Okay, so I wanted to play a little bit of this interview from CrimeCon,
Okay.
where Aaron talks a little bit more about the case.
For being in that room, the power dynamics are so skewed. You think, I mean, I was raised, if you're in trouble, call the police, and now I realize like they made everything worse. And I'm sitting there trying to defend myself, but again, like I need their help because they're the only ones who are going to potentially save Denise.
Yeah, watching the interrogations, years later and seeing what they said. I'm not looking for a live Denise. I'm looking for a dead Denise. She's dead. All right. I've accepted it. You accept it. She's dead. And at that time, I mean, I think one of the kidnappers was trying to call and no one was monitoring his phone. And just seeing that strategy, being the person who was missing, realizing like it wasn't really me that they cared about finding. It just seemed like they cared about being right. And that was really hard to swallow.
And so that's some pretty damning evidence, or some, pretty interesting take on it, where she's like, I'm the one that's kidnapped, and now I'm watching these, interrogation, and they're like, dead Denise, dead Denise. They just want to be right. That's what I take from her statement there. They'd rather
That's
be
right.
than to solve the crime.
Any comments on that? About what Denise had said? Could you imagine being in her position and realizing that law enforcement isn't doing anything, and in fact, the kidnappers are calling Aaron's phone and they're not answering? It's on airplane mode.
I mean, once again, did they do that on purpose so that she would think that Aaron really didn't care about her? Because at this time, she's upset with him. They're trying to work it out because she's busted him communicating with his ex. I mean, is that just more of it? It sounds like it could be a sick, twisted chain of events that they're doing. That would be really shitty feeling to find that out. I mean, she has no way to know his phone was on airplane mode, so
No.
The kidnapper told her, hey, we lost contact with him or whatever. Is that what did happen?
I don't know if we explained that to her. I don't know if it was ever told to Denise, like, we're not getting a response from Aaron, so I'm just gonna let you go. I'm just gonna let you go.
I think that
I
was
think you
said that they
did.
lost contact. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that Mahler did tell her that.
Yeah, that'd be a knife.
I just can't understand the thinking of the police department to put his phone in airplane mode. And what took place, that had to be a little meeting, little powwow with,
In a kidnapping case.
Yeah, never. I'm trying to understand the mechanics of that and what took place in that little meeting that clearly must have been his superiors, maybe other detectives. I don't know. Kicked that around and say, well, we don't, we just need to turn his phone, basically turn it off. I mean, it's not off, but certainly it can't get any, it can't receive any outside communication, so you might as well turn it off. I don't get it. Somebody out there help me.
Yeah, I would love to hear an explanation or a policy that we turn the phone on airplane mode during a kidnapping because that's the logical thing to do. I think we're baffled, and I think because the answer is right in front of our face, that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think there's any way to work that out.
Well, I think it's fair to show, and now we can say because he's been convicted, the perpetrator of these crimes. So there's the picture of Matthew Mueller.
Yeah.
But if we, just to finish out the episode a little bit, what we were, where we kind of left off at the end here. So Aaron and Denise there is, somewhat of a happy ending after we have our, she's our hero with Sergeant Karasu. And then we find out at the end that Aaron and Denise are now married. They moved to the coast. For the most part, after they did their interviews, Aaron had written a book, and that's the book that they were talking about in CrimeCon, that interview that we showed excerpts from. And Denise has given birth to 2 children. And so they hopefully have moved on with their life. But, there's that little nagging suspicion in the background, like, who are these other people involved?
Absolutely. And that, I think you nailed it when you said that the documentarians have some tact, and they left some things out for the public, I guess, to decide for themselves, or they just said, we can't do anything with it. Whatever. That's the effect it had. It's up to the public if they want to, dig a little deeper as they can from their armchair. But I think me personally, I want those questions answered because I just want the truth. I'm like you, Jeff. I just want the truth. I want the full truth, because sometimes that's, as we've just seen here, it's stranger than fiction. So, but we can only hope that they've moved on with their lives, that everything's good with them and their children, and they've been able to at least put it somewhat behind them, especially the more traumatic effect that can have on a person. That would be pure hell, man. God, I can't even imagine. I just don't know how Mueller could have got that information otherwise. I guess it's possible, but I haven't made that connection anywhere. If I'm wrong, please somebody point it out to me, and I'm glad to change my thinking.
Yeah, so put it in the comments or in the chat. Let us know what you think about that. Well, I guess
Please.
We'll just wrap it up here, Jack, and just final thoughts on the episode 3 or the entire series.
I think it was a great series. I think it showcases what we talk about. We talk about in other cases, especially the Avery and Dassey cases, but there are other cases too where police get tunnel vision and they're done. They're absolutely done investigating. This is a poster child for tunnel vision, and a department's unwillingness to say, hey, you know what? We were wrong. Please accept our most humble apologies for doing what we did.
But we did nothing wrong.
But we did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I think
they framed it that way, that Denise felt like, so they apologized, but they did nothing wrong.
Right. Right. And
we take no responsibility for our actions.
That too.
Let's set the example for the community. We take no responsibility for our actions.
It's just insane to me, this entire thing, how it unfolded. You just you couldn't write it any worse. I mean, an actual really good, someone that has the capacity, to create these crazy freaking stories that we see in fiction.
Now maybe they should make a movie based on this one, because they based their investigation on Gone Girl. Now they should make a movie based on this, and then tie up loose ends with the FBI agent and the ex-girlfriend. I would love to see some.
I'm actually surprised someone hasn't done that, because it's such an interesting story.
Well, he did write the book, so usually a lot of times they adapt things from books. So,
yeah,
it ain't over yet.
That's true. And this case is not that old. But I do think it's important to also mention that Colonel Mustard, Sergeant Mustard, won Officer of the Year. I'm pretty sure that was 2015. Could have been 2016, but it was one of those 2 years. He won Officer of the Year. Let that sink in. But yeah, I think this has been a great thing to cover this. It's a really interesting, I think, first start to this series that we're doing on looking at documentaries and, getting other opinions, not just ours, but, what people in the live chat, what they really think. And please be honest, now Jeff and I are big boys. Just be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know
You
what
just never
think.
know. Yeah, you never know what you say may lead us to another whatever. And if you have suggestions for, a documentary that you'd like us to view and, maybe do a little review, throw it out.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's what I was just going to say, Jack, that at this point I'm saying, hey, what documentary should we review next? If you come up with a good one, there's really no limit. As long as people are interested, we would be happy to review one. And maybe there's something that we missed, or there's a specific angle that you'd like us to take. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat, and maybe you can join us on a future live stream, and you can have your say about what you felt about a documentary. So I guess we can leave it there for today. I just want to say thanks to everybody out there for joining us and giving your input as to what you think about these documentaries. And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jack.
We'll see you on the next one. So I guess Jack and I kind of wrapped up our, final thoughts on, episode 3, everything together. So do one of you ladies want to add in anything or something that we missed or anything that you're feeling?
Well, I mean, Jack said they got tunnel vision. But, maybe that's not really what happened. We really don't know. Maybe they jammed this crime down these people's throat. Maybe the whole thing was to punish Aaron. It's so odd how some law enforcement officials have so much power to control other people that work under them, and the outcome is not pretty. And then I didn't realize that Matt Mustard got Officer of the Year, but Jack, maybe you didn't realize that Rocky Gregory got Officer of the Year after the Holtzclaw trial.
Oh my God, that's so much worse.
I know.
It's a CYA move. That's what it is.
Well, I mean, even after he gets caught perjuring himself several times at trial, and then he gets Officer of the Year still. So, it's almost like, good job for what we wanted you to do. Good job.
How did I not know that? God, you just...
I know, it sucks.
I threw up in my mouth a little bit there.
Anyway, there are so many similarities in all of these cases, and I know, how you started the show by saying, we shouldn't start there, but what happens is we do end there.
It's hard not to.
Mm-hmm.
Good point from Cherie. Angela Sakevich, Trial Judge of the Year.
There you go. And Wiegert and Fassbender received awards too. Excellent work, you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that kind of how it works, though? Well, they didn't do anything wrong. How could they have done something wrong? They won an award. Oh.
Outstanding.
I guess, Oscar-winning actors can never have a bad performance.
Yeah. Who nominates these people for those awards?
Yeah, themselves or their buddy or
the chief, actually.
The chief,
the
right?
Chief.
Exactly.
In Daniel Holtzclaw's case, the chief put in a direct recommendation for all these different awards for both of the detectives.
Well, I'm going to put in a
it's-
recommendation for you guys because you guys have been
Mhm.
some great live guests here.
It's crazy, but then that hits the media again and it reinforces everything that they've done. Look,
Yeah.
but they don't say, hey, the chief nominated him. It looks like to the public, oh, this, whatever, Committee 500 panel researched and sought out these excellent detectives, and we're going to honor them. Bullshit.
Well, again, consequences for actions. And again, I said this a few minutes ago. If at some point in my job, if I did something bad, they're not going to promote me and say employee of the year. They're going to withhold my potential raise, potential, promotion or something good that could come my way. This officer does some really terrible things, really bad, that affects so many people, but especially Aaron and Denise, and gets praised for it. He gets praise, maybe even a promotion and more money. I don't know. I don't know what all happened in his career there at that police department. I'm just saying consequences for actions.
Well, I've said this quite a few times before that if you have a policy or a rule or a law without consequences, it's just words on paper.
That's right.
Okay, any last comments on this one, you guys?
It's a good one for anybody that hasn't watched it. Check it out. It's a great little 3-part documentary. Packs a lot in. Yeah, there's questions that we want answered, but in any event, they get the highlights. And well done.
Yeah, I'm good. Good job, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Jeff,
job to you too.
for doing this.
And Jack.
And Jack. Yep.
And thanks to everybody out there in chat. We appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. Appreciate you guys. Definitely, I think we've gotten 3 different documentary requests for future shows. And we will, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I know that Kay had mentioned Outcry.
I just rewatched it a couple days
isn't that
ago.
crazy? Isn't that crazy?
Oh
my God.
I bawled my head off several times.
Again, this is another documentary that it drives at the heart of what a lot of our, I guess, goal of bringing to light is corruption or even worse, malfeasance, tunnel vision, whatever the case may be. That as a member of a public, just a regular guy, regular ladies, they want corrected within our own police department, so we can trust that what they're doing is the right thing to do. And if an officer or a group of officers intentionally screw somebody, they're going to get consequences. That doesn't
For a
need
lawyer.
to be yeah. But Outcry is oh my God. Have you watched it yet, Jeff?
I haven't started it. I had it last night. I had it brought up and then I got distracted, but
I understand.
It's definitely something. And if others are into it, maybe we'll have to do it in a couple weeks. But I did want to plug for next week, and that is the Confessions. And
oh my God.
So we are going to drop that episode next week about the Norfolk 4. The documentary is called The Confessions. I put the link in the chat right now. So if you guys have not seen that one yet, it's about an hour, 20 minutes of infuriation and frustration that there's a lot to talk about there. There are 4 different men, so there's 4 different parallel stories going on, and so it's a little bit hard to keep track of, and we'll do our best to try to keep that succinct. But is there anything, Jack, that you could tease a little bit about it, or anything that just to give people an idea of what they're in for?
Well, this one specific detective and what he did to these guys, and how because of his tactics and how he approached interviewing people, the threats, the case just fed itself, and the prosecution kept having to change their freaking story of how all this happened. And everybody said, well, that sounds good. Yeah, sounds legit to me. And they just kept going. It's crazy. Crazy.
It is definitely crazy. Katie and Susan, have you seen it?
I started
Yeah.
it, but I only got about 10 minutes in.
I know Susan's seen it because we watched it.
Yeah, it was several years
20
ago, and I started
2020.
it the other night, and I fell asleep, so I have to rewatch it.
Okay.
Isn't
Well,
that where the unindicted co-ejaculator?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, sort of, but it's not that's not mentioned in this. But it
Okay.
kind of is. It is. That is kind of the mindset, but they don't know. They don't mention that term.
Well, anyway, next week about the Norfolk 4. If you guys haven't seen it yet, you should check it out to be prepared. And then we will go through a review, and we'll have some live after the show. And you guys are definitely welcome. Katie and Susan have been here both weeks.
Hey Jeff, you might want to drop a link if you've got it handy, because you can watch it on YouTube for free.
I did, yeah. It's in
Oh,
chat
okay,
right now.
great,
Yep.
great, thank you.
Absolutely. So no reason, and that's one of the things that we'll try to do. We'll try to pick documentaries that are easily viewed either on one of the major streaming or on YouTube. So really appreciate you guys coming to check it out, and I hope you enjoyed our talk about these episodes and these documentaries. I'm excited. It gives me a little focus while I'm watching. I feel like I focus in a little bit more knowing that I have to talk about it later, so it kind of changes the dynamic for me. So that's it for this live this week, and we will see you guys all next week. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, everybody in the chat, and we will see you guys on the next one.